Alright guys, not gonna lie, there's not much that I can think of that can either be more helpful or more restrictive than a label. I think in general, labels, or types of witches in this case, are one of the biggest double-edged swords there are. The point of this video is to say labels are just labels, you don't have to pick and choose, but also to say labels can be helpful in navigating a huge sea of information that's initially a little overwhelming. They can also help you communicate what you think to and from other people, including understanding it for yourself. They can give you starting points on where to start researching, and they can help reveal biases and information that you may have not otherwise initially seen. That second part isn't as catchy. Let's go over some types of witches. There are going to be two main parts of this video. The first one is going to be looking at the kind of historical organization, some actual different branches of witchcraft and magic. And then the second part we'll talk about more kind of like the fun types of witches with a little bit of a blurb about the colors in the middle there. Let's get started. So right now I'm going to be going over some paths and traditions. Because all of this information is so readily and so kind of like copy and pastely available, I'm not going to spend too much time putting it into video format here. Just to get some of these big categories out of the way, we'll start with what's almost synonymous with witchcraft nowadays, although that is not the case: Wicca. Witchcraft and Wicca are two different things, Wicca being the religion that practices witchcraft. Wicca was founded in the 1950s, and there are a few different main sects that all depend on, kind of who taught and which branch just people agree with. Wiccan is a religion that has a set amount of beliefs. I see a lot of questions like, well, can I be a Wiccan and still? Well, do I have to believe this to be a Wiccan? In a lot of cases, the answer is kind of technically yes. Like, you don't have to, but it would be kind of like going into church and saying, oh, well, I don't technically believe in this. You're just going to have a hard time trying to do that. You like the idea of Wicca, just not all the beliefs and all the kind of baggage that comes along with it. That's when you start to look into other witchcraft and other different paths. Next, I'm going to go into the esoteric path, things like thelema, chaos magic. These groups tend to use the term magician or practitioner. You'll see like chaos magician or ritual magician. And so in these groups, the common themes you'll see are the lesser banishing rituals. You see the divine names. They usually use the Hebrew divine names of God in their magic. And overall, it's just a different realm and different vibe of magic. And next, I'm going to go over the word pagan. Pagan actually has two main definitions. The first coming from the historical use, where Christians would refer to anybody who was not a Christian as a pagan. Very generally, pagan is any religion that is not Christianity. Of course, throughout time, that word has been reclaimed, and now most people who self-identify as a pagan tend to say that it means they use a nature-based religion. So while technically pagan can refer to just about any sort of practice that isn't Christianity, typically the bulk of the people who label themselves as such are that Druidic, Nordic, kind of European traditional magic. And then the last big flavor or type we're going to talk about here are the Hoodoo and Voodoo. Now, I know like literally next to nothing about these types of magic or how the practitioners feel, because honestly I haven't been in many of those circles. But if that's something that interests you, feel free to check that out. So those are kind of the four main divisions of magic that at least I've noticed and that I can split up. We have Wicca, we have the esoteric side, we have the pagan side, and then we have the Hoodoo Voodoo side. Those are kind of the traditions where magic is the main focus. You can completely, totally incorporate witchcraft and magic into whatever worldview you already have. Whether it's secular and you don't want to believe anything woo-woo, you don't want to believe in any deities and you think it's all psychological. Whether you want to integrate with Christianity and still worship Christ and God while doing witchcraft, yeah, it's completely possible. And of course, you can do a more New Age version, where you're focused on chakras and enlightenment and ascension along with witchcraft. All of those are totally, completely valid, and I completely encourage you to do whatever feels right. And the last two labels I'm going to talk about in this section are eclectic and solitary. I'll say it again, that's eclectic, not electric. And what that means is that it's somebody who picks and chooses from different paths. They don't actually have one thing to pin down on. And That's how I've been, and that's how most practitioners I find tend to be. Solitary is exactly how it sounds, is it's a practitioner who's by themselves, either through choice or through not being able to find anyone. In my experience, most of the people online are going to be eclectic and they're going to be solitary. They're going to be by themselves and they're not really going to have one thing to pin it down on. And honestly, I think that's the future of witchcraft and spirituality. Alright, now on to talking about some more of the less official types of witchcraft that people get so caught up in. I'm going to start here with the difference between white, black, and gray magic. And actually, I'm going to start that off by saying that's kind of an outdated and bad way of looking at things. It's at least low-key racist, and it's definitely high-key egotistical. Now, to explain what I'm saying before anybody gets too worried about it, my ultimate rule is if you feel the pull, use it. Where I'm coming from is that when most people use the terms white, black, or gray witch, they're only referencing their morality. What they're trying to say is, white witches are trying to say, oh, I'm good, I don't do evil things, and then black witches are trying to say, oh, I'm strong, I'm not weak like the people who are too afraid to hurt people, and then the gray witches are like, ha, you're both stupid. So essentially, they're all just kind of trying to prove each other wrong. Now, once again, I'm not talking about the ideas of what they're trying to say is wrong, but the idea of taking, like, that's the most important thing to me and ascribing that label to myself, that's kind of what I'm calling out here. Give you maybe a little bit of relief. I think what most people are trying to say by white magic and black magic is light working and the left-hand path. Light working is, for example, a term for somebody who spreads light, love, and joy. That's how they see themselves, is as a light in this world whose job is to shine. And that is completely awesome. Similarly, the left-hand path is about taking control of your individuality, realizing that you don't need to rely on anything else and kind of, powering your way through the world and figuring out just how powerful each individual is. And that's completely awesome. The majority of the times I'm seeing the terms white magic and black magic being used, it's like a argument to, who's right, who's got the best moral. But once again, I can't read your minds. Maybe you use it in a way that to you it vibes and it rings true. If that's the case, I'd actually love to hear from you. If you notice, I didn't mention Green Witch yet, and that's because I think Green Witch isn't on the same level as those other terms. In fact, I'd be more accepting of those other terms and Green Witch and all the colors combined if there were the other colors. So what I did was came up with a quick little attribution list of what maybe we could call the other different colors of witches. And before I get too far ahead of myself, I guess I should explain. Green Witch is usually a term used for somebody who loves nature, who finds their spiritual connection with nature, and, green. So as I was thinking about it, I came up with the attributions. Red Witch would be about love and passion and power. Somebody who wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm gonna rock today. Whatever's gonna happen, it's gonna go my way because I control my own destiny. An Orange Witch, somebody whose charisma, silly, fun, like the Loki, the trickster vibe, gives a good bit of truth, but also always has their own motivations too. A Yellow Witch could be that light working, light, compassion, kindness, just there to gets their energy from humanity and just gives it on back. Well, we already touched on a Green Witch, which would be, a herbalist, somebody who really enjoys nature. Moving on to Blue Witch, we could consider that, of course, like a Sea Witch. Somebody who just sits back and watches, who interprets everything that's going on, who is aware of all the energies in the room and how everything connects, who is a little bit more mystic, who really appreciates wisdom. And then the Purple Witch, of course, are going to be those with the really strong kind of intuitive divination, getting images and visions, those who are all about the higher realms if there are any. And so in this context, with a lot more broad range of spectrum, I think the colors make more sense. But to have white, black, gray, all kind of, a morality contest, and then green, which I actually like, why not have the other colors? Now here at the end, the last type of witch I do want to explicitly mention is called the Hedge Witch. And that's somebody who sees themselves as working with spirits, hedge referring to the edge. It actually comes from a different word, but that's how you can think about it. The edge of our reality with the spirit world, somebody who goes back and forth. Besides that, whether we're looking at sea witches, cosmic witches, kitchen witches, book witches, whatever, you know, that list goes on and on and on. I've seen some go up to 100. All they're doing is kind of picking something that, you know, vibes with them, that they feel that energy in, and going after that. And while I'll always support people labeling selves how they want to, what I'd like to point out is that I see a lot of problems with this, especially for the very, very, very beginner. I see a lot of questions that are like, what are the types of witches? Can I be 2 types? Well, wait, can I be an X and do Y? Etc., etc., etc. And all that's just so disheartening. I wish I could just tell them, you go do you. Because the root of this problem is that all these last categories of witches I've talked about are just an aesthetic. The only guarantee of the spiritual magic path is that you will not be the person you were when you started. It'll seem like you grow into an entirely different person, although it's actually more you than you were before, so it's kind of trippy. But all that means is that you'll like different things. To attach a label and a practice onto that is something you'll almost definitely grow out of. And so the point of all this is, while hopefully you can see that there are some labels that we kind of need in order to have any sort of conversation. Labels that discuss a person's beliefs and heritage and traditions, where they've came from and what they've been exposed to. Most of the times when the question, what types of witches are there, is asked, I think what really needs to be said is just find that vibe and nature and art and compassion and whatever is in your life and go after that. You see how other people feel, just figure out what makes you feel that same way. There is no wrong answer. I promise. If you do find some neat terms you like, keep them in your head, keep them in your heart. Spend time with that group and that community and figure out what they like and what they know and what they believe. But never, ever, ever let a label, let a word, let a idea hold you back. And guys, that's pretty much all this time. Just had to, you know, talk about different types of witches because can't get across that. So if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. I have content like this for the absolute beginner. If you're a solitary eclectic witch, now that you know what that means, we're trying to build a community of us to stick together. And so I hope you'll stay around. See you around.